What up? Welcome back to Beers and Buckets. It's been a couple weeks, and I apologize for that. But my name is Connor, and I'm joined by Dowell. Dowell, how you doing tonight? Or this morning? I say tonight, but we're recording this morning.
It's kind of funny that we're doing this. Gonna have a nice little morning beer. I put on a Hawaiian shirt to celebrate, just to fit the vibes. Even though I think both of us are drinking pumpkin beers, so the Hawaiian shirt pumpkin beer vibe doesn't exactly mix, but we'll go with it.
Yep. So like I said, it's been a couple weeks. We had I needed a little time off. I started a new job. And we've had, like last week, we had 2 football games in 1 week due to the hurricane. And then also we had a hurricane. So a little crazy in my life, but I'm glad to be back. And we have an exciting episode planned for you guys today. It is conference breakdown season because we're less than a month away until college basketball comes back into our life. And so we're going to be talking about some conferences here in the next couple of weeks. We'll probably maybe have to crank out 2 episodes a week if possible. But we'll be talking about the conferences here. And so today we're going to talk about the ACC. But first, like always, it's time for the beer review. So, Dal, what are you drinking this morning?
Let's do it. All right. I have a Dogfish Head beer here. Dogfish Head is a great brewery out of Delaware, I believe. This is their pumpkin ale. It's a brown ale brewed with pumpkin and spices. It's 7 ABV, so it's pretty heavy. Especially good that we're drinking it at 11 o'clock in the morning. Smells pretty good. That's not bad. Definitely doesn't taste as heavy as 7%. That's honestly pretty solid. So this is disclosure that I'll probably make on every podcast that we do this month. But I bought a bunch of pumpkin beers for spooky season for us to do. And I'm honestly not a huge fan of pumpkin. I only really like pumpkin because pumpkin is associated with cinnamon a lot of times. Like the flavors are similar. And but this is actually pretty good.
Not a fan of pumpkin, huh? You don't like pumpkin pie?
It's fine.
Yeah. It's not fantastic. But
it's not something where I sit there all year and I'm like, God, I can't wait till pumpkin stuff comes back.
Yeah.
I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy it while
it's in season.
Is here for the month. Yeah. But I'm not just trying to get to it.
Yeah, at Thanksgiving we'll do pumpkin pie and apple pie, like a Dutch apple pie. I'll definitely go for the Dutch apple pie before I go for the pumpkin pie first. But I end up eating both, so as you could tell. Yeah. I am drinking Gourd's Gone Wild by Tampa Bay Brewing Company. It's pumpkin ale. It's 6%, and it's the fall seasonal pumpkin spice ale. So a lot of vanilla flavors and nutmeg and roasted pecan. So let's try this. It's pretty good. I like it. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of... it's not quite a stout or a porter, but it's a little bit darker, so more like an amber ale, a little bit darker like that.
I think that was one of the things I was surprised about with mine was that it is it says it's a brown ale with spice and stuff. It legitimately does taste like a brown ale. It doesn't taste. I feel like that pumpkin beers normally skew towards the stout side.
Yeah. No, this one's pretty good. I like it. This is a good morning beer for the fall, I'm sure it's cooler up there where you are, but I mean, it's getting a high of 80-something today here in Florida. And so this morning it wasn't exactly cool, but definitely cooler than what it's been. And so, yeah, this is a great feel to it. I can't wait for this weekend. For us, it's going to be high of 80 tomorrow. So it's going to be in the 60s tomorrow night. So I might have a fire. I'll definitely be drinking one of these by the fire.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Comparing my beer to something basketball related, I don't know. I'm really stumped by this one. Part of me wants to say
go first if you want some wiggle room.
I mean, I think I got mine.
Okay.
the nepotism brothers in Syracuse. I think they're not great at basketball, but they're not bad. But you gotta love them, and also the orange. I mean, yeah. So the orange can. That's where I'm gonna go with the Boeheim brothers.
Word. That's a good one, actually. I think I'm gonna go last year's Rutgers team. We are a fan of the Rutgers basketball team because Cliff Omarui was a former Kentucky recruit, but
current Kentucky recruit, if we're being honest.
Saying he was a former Kentucky recruit doesn't mean he can't be a future Kentucky recruit as well.
I know.
But yeah, so they ended up having a bunch of upsets last year that were super fun. They were kind of surprising. They went on a run, ended up kind of flailing out towards the very end, but they went on a run of Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and someone else, maybe Illinois, last year,
right.
where they were just upsetting teams, and it was they need this win to be able to make the. Yeah, they were they need this win to be able to make the tournament, and then they just kept getting those wins, and then they didn't. But this beer kind of surprised me in a good way, so I'm gonna go Rutgers.
Good call. So the NFL is back in action in full swing at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 back in free bets if they do win. So check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. So there's a couple matchups this weekend I think I'm interested in. Is there anything that you might be throwing down on the NFL this weekend?
Ooh, NFL? Honestly, my biggest play in the NFL was yesterday, so we're recording on a Friday. Yesterday, the under in the Commanders Bears game was such a lock that some site paid out the under. Anyone that bet the under, they paid it out at halftime before the game even ended. That was honestly my biggest NFL play of the week.
I think I'm looking forward to the Bucs and Steelers. Bucs getting back to their winning ways, and obviously they beat the Falcons last week, but I love it when the Steelers lose. I just can't help but watching the Steelers lose. And I got a couple of friends in the fantasy football league chat that are Steelers fans, so I'm gonna rub it in their faces because the Steelers team is doo-doo. So, but I do have Najee Harris on my fantasy team. Might not start him, probably not.
So you need him to do well, but the Steelers to lose is
exactly. Yep.
Exactly.
But to make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped up same game parlays once per game day all season long. So a lot of options for you to make money there. You should go definitely check that out. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code TBPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. So now lately I've been listening to the new Tyler Childers album. Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven? Buddy, that is such a good freaking album. I love it so much.
He did that charity concert with Chris Stapleton here on Tuesday, and I didn't get to go, which I was sad about.
Yeah, I was looking to try and go to that too. That would have been awesome. But it's been so great, and one of the reasons it's been great, obviously it's a good album, but the other reason is because I've been using the Raycon wireless earbuds to listen to it. They look and sound better than ever, and they have these optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, and so they're comfortable and they won't budge. So like I've said before, I like going to the grocery store, keeping a headphone in. It's perfect for that because, people in Florida just don't respect any personal space. So you're always jumping out of people's way. It gives you 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life. And they're priced just right. You get quality audio for half the price of other premium audio brands. So it's no wonder why Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 50,000 5-star reviews. Some of the cool things, I like the noise isolation. I haven't gone on an airplane with them yet, but if I did, I'm sure that would come in handy because you know how loud airplanes can be. And then the awareness mode is a pretty cool feature too. So I would definitely check it out. The sound profiles are cool. So go to buyraycon.com today. Use code TBPN15 to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's code TBPN15 at buyraycon.com to score 15% off. All right, so during the offseason, like I said, we've been breaking down the top 25 teams in college basketball. The last thing we did a couple weeks ago was Gonzaga, and now we're kind of running out of teams, right? Psych, nope. We're going to break down all of the conferences, the major conferences here, and we'll talk about some outlier teams and some of the mid-majors. And, I'm pretty excited about this. So today we're talking about the ACC, and Dowell, I think you're the perfect guest, even though you're a co-host. You're the perfect guy to have on the podcast to talk about ACC. So let me ask you this. What are we feeling? Where are we going? Who's the top 5 teams in the ACC this year?
Ooh, so top 5. I think it's kind of interesting. There's, to me, a pretty clear top 6. I think, and that is reflected in our personal rankings as well. It seems like that there's kind of like a cutoff there. Those 6 teams are probably like pretty much locks to make the tournament, and then you have like the 7 through 10-ish range is probably another kind of little tier where you could really order them in any order there. Yeah. And then the teams that are bad are just bad. And you can be bad in any order that you want. But yeah, I mean, the ACC, I feel like that the ACC last year in basketball, last year in football, this year in football, ACC gets just kind of like, not unfortunately, what's the word? Like unfairly, it gets unfairly maligned for being bad, even though I don't really think that it is nearly as bad as people act like it was. This year should be especially strong at the top, with those 6 teams all being really good, and then that 7 through 10 being actual quality teams, whereas last year they were probably not as high quality teams. But my top 5 finish is UNC at 1, Miami at 2, Virginia at 3, Duke at 4, and Virginia Tech at 5. I think a lot of that just comes down to UNC is so established that I think that will help them in conference play. Miami also returning a bunch of players, Virginia returning a bunch of players. I think Duke might be the most talented team in the ACC, but they just have a lot of stuff to figure out. They have a ton of new players, ton of freshmen that they're working in, and some of the teams that they'll be playing in the ACC kind of match up to give them some problems, I think too. So, and then Virginia Tech will actually be kind of sneaky. Virginia Tech and Notre Dame. Notre Dame is my 6th team. I think they're both kind of sneaky, and we'll be battling for that 5th spot. Yeah,
I think our top 5 are very similar. I actually have Duke at 1, UNC at 2, Miami at 3, Virginia at 4, and I actually accidentally switched it, but Virginia Tech at 5. So we have the same 5, obviously there, and I think we both kind of feel the same about Miami. You have UNC number 1. I think that's interesting. I'm not as high on them. I feel like they're getting the UCLA treatment that UCLA got in 2020 to 2021, kind of that deal, where, they had a great run, but I think it was also a benefit of who they were playing, and then, making to the championship, and then obviously choking in the championship. But all that to say, I think this Duke team is very talented, and I'm going to be talking highly of them on this podcast. When we did the preview before, and I talked highly of them then. With that, I think they'll have some issues early on, and especially in the non-conference, but they'll figure it out by conference plays when I think they'll kind of have it handled there. There's a concern about the shooting there, but I mean, they're so freaking talented and long that I think they'll be fine when it comes to that. Now, another team that we both have in our top 5, obviously, is Duke and UNC. Miami. We both have Miami in there, and we're going to talk about them in a little bit as far as like players to watch for. But this Miami team is one that made it to the Elite Eight last year?
Yes, I believe so.
And and they didn't really. They lost 2 of their top 3 scorers, but they're getting some transfers in that are the most sought after transfers in the market this offseason. So they should be able to replace that kind of production. And actually, I think they're going to be more balanced than last year's team, if we're being honest with you. So another team we talk about, Virginia. I think Tony Bennett's back. I think they'll have a great season, and they could be one of those Sweet 16, Elite 8 teams as well. Just because they finished 4th in the ACC, or I've been finishing 4th in the ACC, doesn't mean that's a bad sign for them as a program. I think that's just how deep the ACC is this season, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I have UNC finishing 1. I don't think UNC is the best team in the ACC. No. I think they'll win a bunch of close games, and because they have such a solidified group that should, and I say should in quotes, like translate the kind of way they were playing and how they figured out was the best way for them to play during the tournament. I assume that kind of translates over. But I don't think they're really the best team. I just think that they will end up finishing first. We see that happen all the time, that the best teams will drop a couple. Go ahead. Oh, never mind. I have him on there. I was going to say, I was going to shout out a Virginia player, but I have him on our 5 players to watch. So
okay, cool. Virginia Tech, we both have them at 5. I like that. I mean, I don't think they'll win the ACC tournament like they did last year, but I think they'll still be pretty good. They're replacing they lost a lot, so kind of replacing that production is going to be hard. But I like Mike Young. I think he's a good coach, so we'll see where he gets them there. Let's talk about some of the other teams. So Notre Dame is right outside my top 5, and it's obviously yours too. What do you like about this Notre Dame team?
Yeah, I think Dane Goodwin is really good. I think he's probably their best player, and it's going to be really exciting for them. Also, I just like Mike Bray. I think that he is a good coach and kind of is really solid at getting the best out of whatever the players that he has. Other than Blake Wesley and Paul Atkinson, who are their 2 kind of main players, I don't think Paul Atkinson's back. He was a senior last year.
Yeah.
But outside of him and Blake Wesley, they were all juniors last year, and they all are back. So they are going to be a super, super established team that knows who they are, knows how to play. They have 2 guys that shot over 100 threes last year and shot 45%. One of them being a big man, so they can stretch you out on the court there. I really like the way this Notre Dame team plays.
I like this Notre Dame team too, and one of the main reasons is the shooting guard that they got coming in, JJ Starling. He's 6'3", 170, class of 2022. Like I said, shooting guard from New York. He signed with them in 2021 over schools like Alabama, Duke, Maryland, Miami. The big ones that stick out to me, obviously, are Alabama, Duke, and Miami. Those are schools that he probably could go in there and start for. He picked Notre Dame. He's going to be a stud, I think. I almost had him in my 5 players to watch, but that just says how deep the talent is in the ACC. So if we had a 5 freshman to watch, he'd make that list from me.
I was going to say, I've seen they just had ACC Media Days for basketball, so I've seen a bunch of ballots coming out for different people that cover the ACC, and a lot of them have him on their all freshman team for the ACC.
Yeah, he's 18th in the ESPN 100, which I know isn't a super accurate representation of how well the talent is, but still 18 in the top 100 is pretty good. So that is something to watch for with Notre Dame. I think he could be that guy for them. So you have Wake Forest at 7th. I have him at 8th, and then I have FSU at 7th, and you have FSU at 8th. So let's talk about these 2 teams here. What do you expect from these 2? Obviously, you're a little bit of Wake Forest leaning bias, so there's that. But I mean, what do you expect from these 2?
Ooh, actually, before we do that, JJ Starling is the only consensus 5-star that Notre Dame has ever gotten, and is their highest ranked recruit.
There we go.
So he's 21st in the composite for 24/7. So yes, the ESPN can be kind of sketchy sometimes in terms of ratings, but it seems to be backed up by the other.
Yeah.
Plus, he went to La Lumiere, which is They produce a ton of talent.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. Anyways, back to what was your question?
Let's talk about FSU and Wake here. They're kind of both. We have them in the 7 to 8 range here.
Yes.
What do you like from either of these teams there?
So I love that Wake lost a bunch last year with Jake LaRavia and Alonnis Williams both going and getting drafted. And then they replaced them with really 3 transfers. I think they'll end up getting 4 transfers, but 3 that will contribute. And all but one of our captains that they just voted on the other day were transfers, which makes me think that they're just going to have a massive impact. I've heard good things coming out of some reporters that have gotten to watch camp that they look really good. I'm just really high on Wake's talent, and also Leonard Hamilton and Steve Forbes might be 2 of my favorite coaches in the ACC. So even though both of them kind of have lost some talent last year to this year, just their ability to adapt to who they have and make their teams better is something where it's always going to be hard for me not to think that in the future, unless they're just completely devoted talent, they don't finish in the top half of the ACC.
Yeah. And so for Wake, I mean, the one that stands out to me is Tyree Appleby, and I'll talk about in my 5 players to watch. But the way that Mike White Mike White's just a bad basketball coach. We can just call it what it is. And correct. So, like, the fact that Appleby was able to stand out in a bad system that didn't really use his skill set the way it could be used, I think you'll see maybe not quite the statistical jump, but you'll see the impact and the production jump from like that Alonnis Williams had from Oklahoma to Wake, like you see Florida, like Appleby will have it in Florida to Wake. So there's that. And like we said with what was the other, FSU, they battled a lot of injuries last year, so they were unusually bad, but they got returning leading scorer Cameron Mills back, and they have Matthew Cleveland coming in. He's a 5-star high school prospect. So I think Leonard Hamilton will have him back in the tournament this year and have them set right on their winning ways. But yeah, I think there could be a fluky thing. I'm just concerned about Florida State's shooting. I feel like we could say that every year. But I mean, defense travels, like we always say. So, and they always tend to be a really good defensive team under Hamilton. So yeah. All right, let's talk about, you have Boston College. I have Syracuse at 9. Why are you so high on Boston College? Because I have them way further down than
9. So Boston College signed 2 4-star freshmen, which is shocking because they're normally really bad and don't get any talent at all. So I think they'll actually have some talent there. Also, it's mainly just based on the polls I've seen from some media people that I trust coming out. A lot of them have them around the 10 range. I think they're just going to be kind of a complete team. I don't know if there will be anyone that really sticks out as their star. Come back, Quentin Post, I guess would be the closest person. He was a junior last year as their big man, but I think a lot of the teams that are below them just end up being teams that are, all right, if you can stop X person, then you can stop the entire team. And I would rather bet on a team that is more of a team that can, if one person's down one night, another person can pick them up kind of thing. But a lot of that really is just kind of me aggregating a bunch of media people who probably pay more attention to Boston College than I do.
I gotcha. Like I said, I have Syracuse at 9. This is one that, all right, so in the past 5 years, Syracuse has finished 46-46 in ACC games with 0 top 5 finishes in the league standings, and they've lost their top 4 scorers from last season's team. So it's a weird year because you'd think this would be the year that Boeheim retires. You think he would have retired this offseason. His
loses
sons
both of
left.
his sons. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he's staying, and I think he's staying because of one person and one person only, and that's Judah Mintz. I think Judah Mintz is severely underrated. He's currently ranked 33rd, and I'm pretty sure it's 33rd that they have him at. Maybe in the ESPN it's 33, but either way, I think Judah Mintz is severely underrated overall, and I think he's going to lead them to a good season. Obviously, they lose 4 out of their top 5 leading scorers from last season, so that's tough to replace with one person. But I think he could really do a good job at leading this Syracuse team and keeping them somewhat nationally relevant. Obviously, finishing 9th in ACC is not the goal, but that's where I kind of have them here. You have them at 10th, so if they can maybe overachieve a little bit and finish 7th, that would be good for them. And then I think Boeheim calls it a day. But I think he wants to see what Judah Mintz can do. So watch out for that sleeping giant there.
I think Jesse Edwards is also someone that I've seen getting some like second and third team love, all ACC love. So I think their problem will be a similar problem to what Duke has, which is like they just have so many new pieces to figure out. And when you're doing that with, borderline 4 stars rather than borderline 5 stars, the ramp time takes up. Honestly, if Syracuse can keep all those guys, they could be an absolute unit in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So yeah, at 10, I have Louisville. You have Syracuse. I have Louisville there. Go ahead.
Louisville doesn't have a point guard. Like, I don't know if they have a single human that can dribble the ball. How do you have them finishing ahead of 5 of these schools?
Because I really like Kenny Payne. I think that where he lacks the recruiting prowess, I think he makes up for the on-court play. And we saw, UNC didn't have a point guard until the actual tournament last year. Like, their point guard play was awful last year. And because they had such a good front court. So I think you'll see kind of the same. Obviously not going to make the tournament and make the title game. I have them finishing 10th in the ACC. So that's not like it's like an out of this world feature. I think their front court carries them. I think Kamari Lands carries them. And yeah, that's why I have them there. And also that just says to how low I think of the rest of the remaining of the schools.
The only team that I have an issue with you going that low is Traquavion Smith and NC State, because I think he is like individually good enough to keep NC State from being worse than Louisville. Yeah,
my biggest concern with NC State is that they recruited Dillingham and then they were trying to get Dillingham to reclassify into this year. And so that just
they're going to be awful.
Yeah, that just speaks to me like how bad I think they'll be overall, despite Traquavion Smith. You know what I mean? I think the sum of Louisville's parts will be better than missing. If they had like a Traquavion Smith, I think they'd just be right where I have NC State. If they didn't have, like the rest of the players that they have coming in. Plus, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield's coming in for them, and I think he's going to have much better production than he had last year. So, yeah.
It'd be hard to be worse.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you have Hughes at 10. We talked about them. I have Clemson at 11. You have NC State. You talked about Traquavion Smith. Let's talk about Clemson here. I am not super high in Clemson. They're a football school, and it's okay. We could say that they're a football school.
They're a football school that plays basketball like a football school. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They almost more than anyone else embody the kind of Texas Tech. Oh, we're just going to have a bunch of 6'6" guys that are super athletic and just like beat the shit out of you for 40 minutes.
Yep. But their PJ Hall, their returning leading scorer, had knee surgery in July, so probably is not going to be 100% to go to start. But I mean, like, I feel like 11th is fine for them. Clemson's just one of those schools that you don't really have to worry about in basketball, So, you
Unless
have
you're awake and you need to get in the tournament, and then
that's true.
You lose to
them. I have Pitt at 13. You have Louisville at 13. Let's talk about Pitt here.
Do we have to?
I don't want to. Dior Johnson. That's why I have my 13.
Good. You're right.
Yeah, that's why I have Pitt there at 13.
Here, I'll flip them in Georgia Tech because I just kind of threw that on there to be different.
You're higher on BC than I am. I have BC at 14. You had them at 9, so we talked about them. All right. Yeah. Do we have to talk about Georgia Tech? Yes, we have to talk about Georgia Tech. Let's do this.
They exist.
They exist. Josh Pastner, 6 seasons at Georgia Tech, and this is gonna suck. Like,
I'm
not
shocked
gonna be a great
there.
7th season. I know. Not gonna be a great 7th season. Everybody nationally has them finishing last in the ACC. Just not good overall. Poor guy. Didn't really replace anybody in the portal and recruiting. Lost Michael DeVoe and Jordan Usher in a team that finished 14th. So when you're losing those two and you're finishing 14th, probably end up finishing 15th because you're not replacing that production that well.
Not great.
So no, not great, Bob. Not great. Let's see. I'm looking at right now to see who they have coming in. Obviously, where is it? Yeah, Lance Terry. He 14 points at Gardner-Webb, and then Javon Franklin, 12 points at South Alabama, and then he got a 3-star in Cyril Martinov.
Yes.
And when you're losing 5 players and you're only replacing them with 3, not going to go well for you. So we won't pick on Georgia Tech anymore. Let's move on to 5 players to watch from the ACC. Dowell, give me your number 1 player to watch from the ACC.
All right, so I made sure to, because you did yours first, I made sure to not have any overlap. Mine is coming from my second team in the ACC, and that's Isaiah Wong. He's the main returner for that Miami team. Shot just over 30% from the field, but his main thing is he just attacks the basket, doesn't foul, doesn't turn the ball over. He's kind of like the steadying force on that Miami backcourt. So I am super excited to watch him alongside Nigel Pack and the rest of the Miami Hurricanes.
Nice. My number 1 player here is Derek Lively. I'm going to say my hot take. I'm going to say my hot take later, but Derek Lively, I think he's going to be a force in this league. So we'll talk about him a little bit more, but you should know to watch out for him. My number 2 player is also a Miami player, and you got the Wong guy. It's Nigel Pack is going to be the best player for Miami next year. He was like the hottest name in the transfer market. Miami absolutely killed the transfer portal this year.
Yes,
by the way, because they got Norchad. So I think they're a more balanced team. I didn't really talk about them too much, but I think they're a more balanced team than last year's team was that went to the Elite Eight. And so, but I think Nigel Pack's going to be the leading scorer for Miami. And so who's your number 2 player to watch for?
They also have 2 4-stars coming in.
Yeah, true.
Which is kind of wild too. One from Whitney Young, the home of Michelle Obama and Julia Okafor. I don't know. I looked them up the other day, and I can't remember now why I did that. Anyways, my second player is, and this is my Wake Homerism coming through, is Damari Monsanto. So Damari Monsanto, for those that don't know, is a shooting guard for Wake Forest. He ended up going to East Tennessee State first and transferred over with Steve Forbes when he came to Winston. Only played in 17 games last year and still was fourth on the team in total threes attempted. He shot 86 threes in 17 games last year, shot almost 40%. Apparently he has dropped a bunch of weight, and I know that he's in the best shape of his life is a trope that gets used every offseason with a multitude of athletes and almost always is just a lie. But apparently he looks a lot thinner, a lot more mobile. And I think that if nothing else, he might be the best shooter and shoot the most threes in the ACC this year, which should be, one, scary for teams because he takes some just insane heat checks, but should also just be fun to watch. So I try to keep this like there are a bunch of people that are going to be more well known than him, and I mean I would be shocked if he even makes an All ACC third team. But if you're just like looking to turn in and just watch someone just absolutely chuck from everywhere, DeMar Monsanto is your guy in the ACC this year, and I'm really excited about him getting a full season coming off his injury last year.
I dig it. Who's your number 3 player here in the 5 players to watch?
It's the guy for UVA that I said that I wanted to talk about, but I would mention later. It's Reese Beckman. I think he's going to be the best player for Virginia this year, and I'm pretty high on them. He is a 6'3" guard, was 66th in the country last year in assist rate. He's also 38th in steal rate, which is kind of a product of their system. But he's going to be really good, and I think that Virginia team is going to kind of go as he goes.
Yeah.
He's a pretty decent shooter. He really could probably afford to get a little bit better. Shot 65 threes last year, shot 43 threes, and shot almost 40% in conference play. So if he can kind of translate that into more volume, he could be a really, really, really dangerous piece for Virginia.
Yeah. My number 3 player to watch is going to be the number 1 player in the transfer portal next season. That's Dior Johnson from Pitt. I think he'll have a fantastic year, and teams will be chomping at the bit to get him, not the pit, to get him. And I just think I don't think he's going to want to stay and play for Pitt next year when he's going to see the teams that are really going to be recruiting him, even though he hadn't officially entered the transfer portal. You know that love's going to be there. So either goes to the draft or goes to the transfer portal. I think with the opportunity of NIL, he probably will stay in the transfer portal and go there. But yeah, that's my number 3 player. My number 4 player, I already talked about him, is Tyree Appleby. So we don't need to talk about too many more. But I think he's going to be great for Wake. I think he's going to be, like I said, that jump that Alondas Williams had from Oklahoma to Wake. You'll see that from Florida to Wake for Tyree Appleby, and that's because of the man Forbes over there. So
who's your number 4 player? It's funny because he's the 3rd transfer on Wake's team even that I'm the most excited about.
It's probably because I've watched him more because I've watched him for so long. So, and just, again, the misuse that Mike White did with him, like fair. Finding somebody that actually will be able to develop you and coach you and get you in a system that's better for you. Like, you got to be excited about that. There's going to be some renewed energy for Appleby there.
So I will say I'll use this to sneak in a special 6th person. Andrew Carr is the transfer that I'm hearing about the most out of the Wake camp. He's like a 6'9" small forward from, I think, Delaware. Somewhere like super random.
The Blue Hens?
Yeah, the Blue Hens, exactly. But I think he moves directly into that Jake LaRavia playmaker on the wing position. He was one of the guys that got voted a captain alongside Tyree Appleby. I think Andrew Carr might end up being the best player on Wake's team next year.
So I could see that too. Yeah, I could see that too. I think the impact of that's like saying like who was the best player on Wake last year. Well, Alondas Williams had the most production, but Jake LaRavia had got drafted in the first round. You know what I mean? It's tough there, but I'm excited for both of those guys. So who's your 4th player on this list here? 5 players to watch.
My 4th player is kind of the lamest of the 5 players, and it's Caleb Love. I talked about UNC being the team that I'm projecting to finish first, even though they're not the best player. I think a lot of their success, people are going to say that it falls on Aminder Bakat. We know what Aminder Bakat is going to be. He's going to be really good. I hope he doesn't win Player of the Year just to continue to make UNC fans mad. But I think that a lot of their success, and it was the same thing in the tournament, a lot of their success came down to Caleb Love finally figuring out the point guard role and being able to have him be the point guard and RJ Davis be the shooting guard. So I want to see if the 6-game stretch that they went on is real or if it's UCLA fake where, it goes and kind of reverts back to the mean. So like I said, this is super lame, but Caleb Love does, I think, decide a lot of what UNC does this year. So I felt like I had to put him on the list since neither of us had a UNC player.
Yeah, I gotcha. And then who's your fifth player to round things out there?
I have talked about him already, but Traquavion Smith, he's my, this is spoiler alert, but he's my pick for ACC Player of the Year. I think that he's just going to be so clearly the entire team for NC State, and just the sheer numbers that he's going to put up and the NBA buzz that he's going to get being a kind of like 6'4" spindly guard. He shot 263s last year and shot 37%. Like, he's going to put up numbers, especially with Sebron being gone. So I am just super excited to watch him play.
Yeah, and I talked about my guy, my fifth player here, Judah Mintz. I've talked about him probably enough, but I think he's underrated. I think he's going to make a splash in the ACC and college basketball overall. So let's move on to ACC Player of the Year. You talked about yours, Traquavion Smith. I have Derek Lively as mine. I think I'm going to save my takes for it and the hot takes. So
I'm very interested to see if you turn out being correct. If you turn out being correct, my Duke at number 4 pick is going to look incredibly dumb.
Oh, yeah. It is incredibly dumb, but yeah. Let's talk about ACC Coach of the Year then. Who do you have for your ACC Coach of the Year?
Okay, so I did this just because you picked the person that I would probably pick. But I picked Tony Bennett just because they haven't given it to him in a while, and everyone loves Tony Bennett, and they're going to be good this year. It'll be kind of like a comeback story because
like Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, sure. Tony Bennett, obviously the person that I would compare him to the most is Kim Kardashian. Very similar vibes. I just think that a lot of times this doesn't actually come down to the best coach, and it's just kind of the coach that gets the narrative, and I could see Virginia getting the narrative this year.
Yeah, just to spoil it, John Shire is my Coach of the Year for ACC, and not because I think he will be the best coach in the ACC next year, but it's because the first-year head coach, and he has oodles of talent, so they're just going to win a lot of games off talent alone. But I do think he is a good coach. I would be curious to see if they have a down year in recruiting, what he will be able to do with the team. But for right now, he won't have to worry about that because the next 2 years are pretty much set up for him for recruiting. And, so he will probably win ACC Coach of the Year just because first-year head coach is probably going to have 20-plus wins. So
if they finish first in the league like you're talking, I don't know how you don't give it to him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that brings us to our hot take, and I'm going to go first because I already talked about Derek Lively. I think Derek Lively does everything UNC fans wishes Baycott could do. I think they want to see him become a more elite shot blocker.
You mean win Player of the Year?
Yeah, that too. But I think he could be a more elite shot blocker than Baycott. His rim, like I said, his rim protection is probably is great. He's more of a rim runner than Baycott is. Like Baycott's a low post scorer, where Derek Lively is going to get the ball and run. He's more athletic. I think he's probably a better shooter. Just everything all around. They thought Baycott's the man. No, that's why I think Derek Lively is going to win Player of the Year, because he's doing everything that people wish Baycott could do. So that's my hot take. What's yours?
Mine is that a non-Duke player wins Freshman of the Year. We talked about, so Derek Lively, obviously, if Derek Lively's winning Player of the Year, Derek Lively's winning Freshman of the Year, because would be normally how that works. But I just think we've talked so much about guys this year. We've talked, you mentioned Judah Mintz, loving him. BC, like I said, has 2. Yep. BC has 2 4-star guards. I don't think they'll probably win just because they're not going to be that good. But I think there's a ton of really, really, really good freshman talent in the ACC, and I think that almost like Duke's freshman will kind of almost muddy the waters a little bit and kind of it's hard to really have like an MVP whenever you have three really, really great players. You're almost better off having just like one. And so I could see like Derek Lively and Derek Whitehead kind of stealing the shine from each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, someone we haven't mentioned, Rodney Rice is a freshman that I've seen kind of on some all ACC freshman teams that could end up being the guy for Virginia Tech. But yeah, that's my hot take is a non-Duke freshman wins freshman of the year.
Nice. All right, man. Well, this has been a fun conference breakdown of the ACC. Let's move on to the last call here. Is there anything you want to depart in saying here?
Just that we're about to come up on the best time in sports, I think. So there's obviously March Madness. There's obviously March Madness. Basketball. But like the end of football season and bowl season starting when it overlaps with basketball is just peak stuff.
Daddy like.
I don't like that. But I do like when it overlaps. So, no, I'm just really excited. And I'm kind of chomping at the bit to get to basketball season, even though I don't want football season to like go any faster because I still want it to stay too.
Yeah. Mine's pulling out of left field here. And so last night on our JV game, I called the offense for the first time this season. And it was super fun because I've been helping out with defense so much on varsity this season. It helped me become a better offensive play caller. And one thing that I wish more offensive play callers would do, and I'm not saying that I figured out how to call offense on football.
Connor is the best offensive coordinator in the world. After
calling one game of JV where we scored one touchdown. But one thing that I wish that we could do, that more offensive play callers would do, instead, like, if you run something that works, run it again and see if it works again. If they stop it, that's okay. But, like, if you run something that works, do it again until they stop it. Because that's what we were doing last night, and they could not stop just a 31 zone with the quarterback keep. And it was money all day long. The only reason they did stop it was because of penalties on holding and things like that. But, like, I mean, we scored our first offensive touchdown of the season for JV last night. And so I'm super excited to call it next week in the last JV game. And, yeah, so that's what I'm saying is if you coach football, or if you have any sort of, or even with basketball, you can apply it with basketball too. If something is working, keep going to it. Like don't anticipate the defense stopping it without them actually showing that they could stop it. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm going to say is just do stuff when it works and do it until it doesn't work anymore. So yeah. And my other last call is follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Beers and Buckets Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. Do us a huge, huge, huge favor. Go to one of the 1,000 streaming services platform for listening to podcasts and play this episode so we get some money in our pockets. And then, like, rate, leave a review, and share this episode. And then check out the Basketball Podcast Network on Twitter for more shows like this one. So this has been a fun episode. We'll be back, next week with – we could try and squeak 2 in. We're going to try and squeak 2 in. So Big East and Big 10 basketball. And then, the following week we'll do Big 12 and Pac-12 and then SEC and then other notable teams. So, and that'll lead us right into the college basketball season. We're almost there. We're in the home stretch of the offseason. This has been real. This has been fun. This is the bottom line because Connor said so. Dowell, you have a fantastic rest of your day. Listeners, you have a fantastic rest of your day, or whenever you're listening to this at night. Then have a great evening, too. We appreciate you guys listening.
Happy Big Blue Madness Day, also.
Yes. I'm recording it tonight. I'm going to watch it after the football game tonight. Super excited. I thought we'd go all episode without talking about Kentucky. Glad we snuck that in there because we are the homers.
We have a brand to stick to, sir.
We do. We have followers to appease. So, yeah.
I'm going camping. So I have to record it as well.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, you enjoy your camping trip, and you listeners enjoy the rest of your day / evening. You all take care.
Peace.